Anthony Fantano is a music critic on YouTube who rose to popularity reviewing albums and giving his takes on all things music. Doing so has amassed him millions of subscribers, but also embroiled him in controversy. As you can imagine, some artists did not take well to his reviews. Now, personally, I don't like the guy too much. I mean, takes-wise, you know, it's hit or miss. When it comes to music, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Like, people think 100 gecs is music. They enjoy listening to that, so... But besides that, I would say one thing I dislike about him was specifically how he handled Kanye West's Vulture album release. So obviously Kanye West is no stranger to controversy. He said a lot of crazy things throughout his years because of his mental illnesses and various other issues. But such is the case with an excellent artist, okay? You don't get some of the best music of all time without being a little fucking crazy.
Everybody waiting for me to say the wrong thing. Okay, you the king, Burger King.
And that's the price you gotta pay. Hey, if I need this guy to legitimately hurt someone for another album like Graduation, people might have to get hurt. They would be martyrs for the benefit of my Spotify playlist. And it would have to happen, okay? Anyway, December 2022, Kanye West says a lot of crazy things on Twitter, stuff that I can't repeat on YouTube, and not long after releases an album called Vultures. I personally like the album. I'm a Kanye fan, and I thought the album was decent, not his best. Give it a 6 out of 10. Fantano reviewed the album, but really gave no charitability to the music itself because of how misbehaved Kanye was. He used Kanye's unhinged behavior to justify a lot of criticisms about the music itself, which I found to be irrelevant. I mean, a lot of people were in the replies of that video telling him to separate the art from the artist. As he's done so before, there's a compilation out there of him, you know, explicitly saying, hey, I know this artist has a lot of baggage. They support things that I don't support. They say things that I disagree with. However, this album is good, and I have to rate it good because the album is good. With Kanye, it was a completely different story. Now, even though the album wasn't great, and I wasn't expecting him to give it a great review, but instead of remaining neutral, he literally squatted over the album and took a shit in a way that I think was not really warranted or not deserved to that level. And there's been plenty of other times where he's reviewed artists or albums that I like and given horrible scores to. Sometimes his audience checks him on that, sometimes they agree that it sucks. So overall, I think Fantano gets criticism that is warranted and some that isn't warranted. I also think people leaving paragraphs in the comment section of a video of an album that he gave a poor review to just because they disagree are wasting their time. Now, I did make a video on Fantano back when he reviewed Vultures, but I get a pass for 2 reasons. 1, it's my job, and 2, more than him picking apart the music, he was very much showing his biases toward Kanye as a person, which I think is a very flawed way to review music as a critic. But anyway, on that note, I want to watch this video, rappers who dissed Fantano after getting a bad review.
Each of these rappers picked a fight with Anthony Fantano, with Lil Xan's call-out being one of the more aggressive.
Oh, you guys know this guy, right? Anyone?
You're completely out of your mind.
Okay, Lil Xan, for those of you who don't know, was a one-hit wonder in 2017. He was a mumble rapper who released a song called Betrayed. Xans won't make you, Xan's gonna betray you. Got 200 million views on Lyrical Lemonade for some reason, which really just shows that we as a species are yearning for death and just a sweet release because that song was terrible. But he was relevant for a few months, maybe 6 months at most. Then people quickly realized he had nothing to offer musically and moved on. But once he had made a song and blown up, people were still, you know, somewhat interested in his life, even though his music was terrible. Which led us to discovering one quite interesting thing about this guy, which was he actually overdosed on hot Cheetos. Not a joke, he actually ate too many hot Cheetos one night and had to be sent to the hospital. Now, I'm not gonna make fun of him for having to go to the hospital for eating too many hot Cheetos because that sucks. He didn't do anything wrong. I'm not gonna prey on this guy's, you know, health decline because I don't like his music. But there is something to be said about overdosing on hot Cheetos as a rap artist in a genre pretty notorious for death and harm in a lot of other ways. Historically in rap, you have people dying from drive-bys and overdosing, like actual overdosing, gang shootouts, kidnappings, robbings, etc. And then this guy makes one song, people don't really like it, they think he's corny, and then he overdoses on hot Cheetos. So that was sort of his resume, was song, hot Cheetos, gone.
He released his first studio album, Total Xanarchy, which was universally reviewed as being pretty terrible.
It's crazy because these reviews are actually pretty generous. A 2 out of 5 is crazy. That's like 0.5 away from a 50%. That's like a passing grade. I can't play any of the music from the album because the video will get claimed, but the main reason I'm not doing it is because I don't want to fuck with you guys. I don't want to ruin your day.
But no one was as harsh as Anthony Fantano, who began his review with a pretty brutal statement.
We're not even at the halfway point of the year yet, and this is one of the worst things I've heard all year.
Fantano proceeded to call Xan extremely stupid.
He sounds like he barely has a pulse half the time, and most of his songs don't really have much more than 10 words to their name because I don't think he could commit more than 10 words to memory for a single track.
With the album's only decent segments being made by other people.
Really, the only thing that gives any of these tracks credibility are the features.
Xanarchy was therefore given the infamous not good rating, being only the 17th album Fantano had ever given the title to. As explained by his Reddit, not good is worse than zero.
This project is a non-starter.
Which Lil Xan understandably wasn't happy about.
A lot of artists get on the defensive when they get a bad review with something along the lines of, if you don't like it, then just don't listen to it. Which is fair enough. Like, that's a valid thing to say. People who don't like it aren't going to listen to it. But at the same time, it is his job to review the albums, right? Like, he is a music reviewer. And so when people think he's, like, full of hate or something like that, or he has resentment or scorn toward, you know, artists that he doesn't like their music, I'd probably don't think that's true. I mean, I certainly wouldn't extrapolate that he doesn't like a person because of the music that they make. But I think because, you know, artists are so attached to what they produce, and it's oftentimes an outward manifestation of their inner thoughts and desires and whatever, they take it super personally, and I can see why. But I think the way you engage with this content as an artist has to be that, you know, you have a material and they're just viewing the material. They're not indicting you as a person. And a lot of them don't know that, you know, like a lot of people are like, well, you bet you wouldn't say it to my face, pussy. It's like, well, you know, he just didn't like the album, you know? You're saying that like he's talking shit about you, which I don't think he is. I mean, in some cases he is, like definitely for a fact he is. But, you know, just because you're reviewing music, it's not like an attack on the fucking person.
As when Fantano came up during a No Jumper podcast, Lil Xan was quick to offer his opinion.
What, the needle drop?
Yeah.
Oh,
really?
Needle drop?
You don't like
dope,
him?
bro.
Oh yeah, he dissed you hard.
He then blamed Fantano for Lil Peep's death.
When it comes to rap, I think he has no say because he gave Lil Peep like a 1.
Really?
And then 2 weeks later, Lil Peep's dead. And Lil Peep's a great artist.
I don't think Lil Peep's cause of death was a bad review. But what he's saying is a good example of Fantano definitely being wrong. Like, I know it's all subjective, but people love those Lil Peep albums. Fantano was like, it's garbage. Now, that is an unfortunate thing that happens where an artist will get a bad review and then later something bad will happen to them. And people go back to the video Fantano made to shit on him. But it's like, what do you think that fucking the criticism of the album made by Fantano caused these people to die? I'm gonna make an educated guess and say likely not the case.
You can speak on alternative rock, all that weird Japanese you like. I know you got some weird fetishes, but please do not speak on rap.
With Post Malone also responding after getting a not good rating.
Lil Xan telling Fantano that he should not speak on rap is so funny because Lil Xan himself is barely a rapper.
Hey, they want me to go vote. Hey, they want me to go vote. My grandma said when I rap, sound like I choke. I just jumped off the boat.
Fantano is more culturally relevant in rap than Lil Xan is in rap, and Lil Xan is a rapper. How is that even fucking possible? But in terms of response, I mean, you know, it is relatively tame. Lil Xan just goes, oh, fuck you. All right. Fuck you. Fuck you. Okay, well, that's the exchange. Moving on.
Prior to it gaining over 9 billion streams, Fantano somehow concluded that Stoney was not good.
There's just nothing special about this album, in my opinion.
Well, the numbers, just statistically, you're very fucking wrong on this one. Stoney has, I think, 3 or 4 diamond or platinum songs. All right, so I got some sources here. Congratulations, featuring Quavo, certified 14x platinum, surpassing the diamond certification. White Iverson, certified 10x platinum, meeting the diamond certification. I Fall Apart, certified 10x platinum, achieving diamond. Go Flex, 6x platinum. Too Young, 2x platinum. Now, I'm curious what Post Malone actually responded to this with, because the title says dissed Fantano, but Post Malone is such a nice guy. There's literally a clip of Post Malone where a fan tells him, or not a fan if he says this, but he goes, fuck you, Post Malone. He goes, that's rude.
What is Riz? Post Malone, you a bitch. You suck. That's rude.
Thank you.
Just super nice, super just like unbothered, just taking a calm tone. What could he have said to Fantano?
ratio, implying that the audience didn't agree. Damn, am I the only one who thinks this album is really good? Fantano then shared his review to his Twitter, where people again replied calling his rating inaccurate, with Post Malone retweeting these comments to his Twitter. He'd then replied directly, "But if you gave J. Cole a mediocre rating, then I'll take this as a compliment," to which Anthony responded, "See, every cloud has a silver lining," prompting Post to again respond, "And every Anthony Fantano has a dick tickler." Fantano simply responded with a laughing emoji, but it seems Post Malone eventually got the last laugh, as during his review, Anthony also foolishly stated,
"I think he's really going to pan out as a one-hit wonder."
I mean, Post Malone is a household name at this point, so definitely wrong. I don't even need to gloat or brag or prove the point here because it kind of proves itself.
His very next album, Post, included the line, "Your new stuff sucks, I feel like Anthony Fantano," but it was Logic who spent half of a 2-minute song expressing how much he hated Fantano.
Like, even that, is that even a diss? That's how nice Post Malone is. Like, he's like, oh, I'm calling something bad, I'm like Fantano. It's just a reference to the fact that Fantano criticizes stuff. Post Malone's a sweetheart, and I know he does country music now. He's done so many genres. Even if you don't like his music, I don't know how you could hate him as a person. He's so likable.
Logic had been given 2 different scores of 1 out of 10 or lower, which he'd admit always imposed a heavy mental burden.
He would review my music ever since my mixtapes, and it would always like f me up because he would always basically say how I wasn't like good enough.
The extent of which only being revealed when he'd put out La Donda roughly 2 years later. About halfway through the song, Logic begins an unexpected rant. "Anthony Fantano, you plaid shirt wearing mother effer. I used to hate you cause you'd crap on my music. I used to fantasize about murdering you, choking you to death." He was trying to make—
Now that's definitely a response. That's not any Post Malone shit. That is, I don't like you. I want to hurt you. I fantasized about ending your life. Logic, you freak. Stop with this violence, the senseless calls for violence against Mr. Fantano. Go back to talking about how biracial you are. My daddy black, my mama white. I like to play Fortnite. That's the bar, right?
I don't play no games unless we talking Fortnite.
He was trying to make the point that the feedback was ultimately helpful, although it wound up making Fantano very uncomfortable, who'd spend 3 minutes speechless after playing the song on stream. He'd eventually respond by stating,
I don't know if I'm cool with that, you know? I mean, it's how you feel, but it's a little weird. Like, hey.
You gotta love how he's trying not to go too hard on Logic after Logic was just like, yeah, I used to want to kill you. He's like, that maybe crosses a line. like maybe I don't want to hear that you want to kill me. Could we not do that? Neutrality, perhaps? I call a truce, waving the white flag.
My reviews aren't that big of a deal. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm not here to hurt anybody.
After which Logic dressed as Anthony to review some of Anthony's reviews. Fantano and Logic's relationship is just downright confusing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it doesn't really have to make sense. They're like frenemies or something like that. And I assume next time Logic drops an album, because it probably will not be a great album. I think Logic's best albums are years behind him. Fantano will say what I just said, and, you know, that might prompt Logic to purchase a firearm and make himself understood that he's not to be reviewed poorly. Okay, I was gone for a minute, but I'm back now. Can we finally admit that the 1-800 song by Logic where he's talking about suicide was never a good song? Can we admit that the song was just not good ever? I know it has a lot of views, but I think it lasts, like, I was hearing it on the radio back in 2018, and I was like, well, that's kind of like, this song is kind of weird. It's a song about, you know, wanting things to end. And like, where do you bump that? I don't know your line. Like, if you're driving, you can't turn it up. If you're partying, you can't turn it up. If you're studying, you can't turn it up. Maybe, actually, no, maybe if you're studying it, you can turn it up. But like, if you actually are sad, you play that song that's like, I'm so sad, and it's like, well, doesn't that kind of take you out of it? Doesn't that level of self-awareness like ruin the immersion, like ruin the emotion?
Fantano was supportive of Tyler's earlier projects, so when he'd then give Cherry Bomb a pretty bad rating.
I'll be honest, Tyler, the Creator's music has never been for me. I know a lot of people like his music, so I'm not going to say anything, not because I don't have anything to say, but because I want to keep the likes on this video pretty high. He does seem kind of funny, though. He's had some funny clips. But all I know about Tyler, besides the fact that he makes music for girls that take photos on Snapchat and then apply filters to the Snapchat photo to make it look like it was taken on a Polaroid, is that some of his early music was insane. Like, some of the lyrics that he had on his earlier albums were shit about, like, graping people. You know, stuff that you can't really say, I feel like. Stuff that is not family friendly or friendly at all, even if you're not in a family or you're just alive. It's just not good stuff.
Honey on that topping when I stuff you in my system. Keep a pregnant bitch and tell my friends I had a threesome. You got a fucking death wish, I'm a genie, it'll get done.
Yeah, we just can't play that. That needs to be censored.
Tyler wasn't super happy. He'd tweet, album been out for 30 hours. How can you review it? Listen to it for a while, with comments on the review agreeing. First time I listened to it, 3 out of 10. Now after 10 listens or so, 7 out of 10. However, even after listening to it for a while, Fantano never changed his mind about the album, stating Cherry Bomb is still bad even 9 years later.
This record stinks. It still stinks. I can't stand it. I really can't. I feel like it's aged worse. It sounds worse than it did when it came out.
In the process, Fantano calls Cherry Bomb
the worst record in his discography.
But with the album's poor reception came a silver lining. Tyler explained in Flower Boy: A Conversation that after Cherry Bomb got terrible reviews, he knew his next album would have to be amazing, or his career was probably over. Learning from Cherry Bomb's mistakes, he'd put out Flower Boy, Igor, and Call Me If You Get Lost, which Fantano gave each at least 8 out of 10 or higher, aka a rating MGK could only ever dream of.
I mean, that's good. It doesn't seem like Tyler had a direct response to Fantano there, let alone a rapper who dissed Fantano after getting a bad review. Yeah, that's him saying, the album's been up for not a long time, how can you review it? Not really a diss, more of a question. And then he takes the L or whatever and then makes better music afterward. I don't know. Seems like a positive interaction. I'm not saying it's going to be too clickbaited or anything, but it's just funny, you know? I think to be fair, if an album comes out within 24 hours, you're allowed to give your thoughts on it, right? Because it goes both ways. It could be really good when you first listen to it, and then it doesn't age that well. Or it could be really bad when you listen to it, and then it does age well. But I think reviewing an album after it comes out is kind of like a fair time frame. Because, like, how long do you wait for something to age, like, at all, right? Is 6 months good? 8 months? 9 months? I think in Fantano's case, right, if he gives an album a bad review, then it turns out later to be good, he can make some kind of an update video or express that his thoughts on it has changed. Whereas if it was good and then it turned out he didn't really like it and it's aged poorly, he's just gonna keep up the initial review, right? It feels like hater activity to go out of your way to make an update video. I don't like it anymore, right? It's like, what's the purpose of that?
In fact, Fantano had reviewed 4 of MGK's projects, giving them scores of not good, 0, 1, and 3.
Well, MGK's music does suck, and this is sort of one of those Lil Xan situations where I think Fantano ripping into this guy is completely deserved. This one was really bad. The Genre Sad Boy album with Trippie Redd, that was just like a crime for music, man.
Not good rating on Tickets to My Downfall, prompting an indirect response from MGK on Twitter. One of his fans had written, "I'm listening to Machine Gun Kelly's pop punk album. The Zoomers are gonna put this in the Rolling Stones top 500 in 2030.
The unfortunate reality of MGK's situation is that he never fully recovered after the Eminem beef. MGK made this diss track on Eminem. It was called Rap Devil, and it was horrible, and Eminem responded to it, ripped him a new one, and then he literally forced Michael Kelly. What's his name? What is his name? Colson Baker. Where does Kelly come from? He forced Mr. Baker to switch genres from rap to pop punk, which, hey, I like pop punk, so it's not like, oh, that's like a worse genre than rap. But for him to have been basically shoved into that group, to that genre, is crazy. And unfortunately, he's kind of not really great at it. He kind of sucks at it, actually. I don't think he has a bad singing voice, per se, but he's just not very good at making music in this style.
To which MGK responded, and they will be right. Critics try to take jabs at all the bands your generation loved during their moment, and then understood its importance in hindsight. It's made from pure love. The universe can't deny that.
He's doing the whole they hated Jesus thing, right? You know, they'll be right. You know, they didn't like insert great band here when they came out. They're not gonna like me because I'm not great now, but later they will like me. It's like, well, I don't think that's true, actually, because no one's looking back at your rap and thinking it was good. No one's looking back at your early pop punk stuff and thinking it was good. Now, to all the Machine Gun Kelly fans in my replies right now in my comments, I don't think that he is incapable of making good music. I just think if he is, he's not showing that he is. I'll tell you a story, actually. I saw him live by accident before he switched genres. Back in 2018? When was this? I don't remember. Before the pandemic, Fall Out Boy was doing a tour. I went to see Fall Out Boy, MGK opened for Fall Out Boy. MGK started doing push-ups on the stage and licking the floor while he was doing push-ups. No one really understood what was going on. The crowd sort of unanimously, silently agreed that we were witnessing a humiliation ritual. And then Fall Out Boy came out. No one remembered and or cared about MGK. Just a few eyebrow raises and then on with the show.
Anthony, however, only continued to clown him, writing when the Queen died RIP. The Queen will never get to hear MGK save pop punk. When he and Trippie Redd then announced a collab mixtape, Fantano responded with the classic Star Wars meme, pushing MGK to the point of responding directly. Two friends from Ohio made some songs that no one is forcing you to listen to. Insufferable.
I love that he adds from Ohio. That's supposed to make it more wholesome. You know, we're just two friends making music with a humble come up from Ohio. It's like, what the fuck does Ohio have to do with this? You can just say any state there and it makes the statement the same. Two men from planet Earth making music. Okay.
Well, I know.
Insufferable.
Trippie Redd further added, who cares, dudes' reviews be trash, which likely contributed to their collab getting another bad rating.
I am feeling a 0 on this.
I don't know if it contributed to it because Anthony Fantano was supposed to remain unbiased, but, you know, because of the Kanye thing, we know he can't do that. Either way, you know, you were getting a 0 anyway, so.
But for one of Young Lean's projects, Fantano bluntly refused to rate it. It was Unknown Death 2002, the review of which took a very strange turn.
My hand is bread. My hand is bread. My hands are bread.
There's bread.
My hands are bread.
After an unenthusiastic intro, Anthony spent the entire video simply eating bread, adding in the description, shoutouts carbs, yeast, enriched flour, salt, water, My Light Bakery, stating his favorite and least favorite songs were bread, rating the album bread out of 10. One comment theorized it's easy to tell that Anthony is saying he lost his mind because this album is so good and revolutionary. Also, the bread is a metaphor for how much money he thinks Young Lean is gonna make with his albums.
He probably didn't like the album would be my guess because of the bread. The bread tells me that it's probably him thinking the album was boring, like bread is a boring food. But I don't know, Young Lean's kind of a cool artist. I like some of his music. I don't really see, like, what's the point of it's boring, so I'm gonna make a review saying it's boring? Okay, well then if you're like, to make the review saying it's boring, be boring itself is a little fucking weird. Like, he's done that with so many other artists. Like, he's done Nav reviews where he's like, this is boring, I hate it, but he's actually reviewing it, he's not making some bread joke. And like, I get with Nav, like, he's kind of a rap meme because he doesn't make amazing music. I like some of Nav's music, don't get me wrong. But Young Lean is like, he's widely seen to have a great discography. So, I don't know, this kind of disrespect seems strange. I mean, it is 10 years ago, so can't hold him to a crazy high standard, but.
Fantano's lack of enthusiasm rather implied the opposite. Therefore, when Young Lean was asked, what did you think about Anthony Fantano's review of your tape Unknown Death? He'd respond by stating, don't really care. He should stop wasting his time and do something creative himself instead. It's always more giving and fun.
I mean, to be completely fair, I get what Young Lean's saying, and I like what he's saying, but the reality is, you know, not everyone can make music. Not everyone will make good music or is capable of doing such things. I would say, and I would guess that Fantano isn't capable of making music. And that's not like a hatred thing, but like, do you see Anthony Fantano being a popular, good artist? I don't, and that's fine. I can't see myself being a popular, good artist. But yeah, I mean, maybe he does enjoy doing the reviews. He's like, oh, do something creative, or it's always more fulfilling. I'm pretty sure he's fulfilled being a critic and, you know, rating the music that he likes and doesn't like. It's not bad. But either way, if you want to go watch the full video for yourself, I'll leave it down in the description below. If you enjoyed, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. See you guys all later. Peace.